Since I got the GPD WinMax a couple weeks ago, I've taken a look at the hardware from a user's perspective. But one of the most important aspects of getting a device like this has to be the gaming performance. So starting from today, I'll be doing a series of videos showcasing some benchmarks on the WinMax, and we'll start off by taking a look at a wide range of emulators on the device. So the WinMax I'll be using today will be running at its default 25 watts with no overclocking. The performance metrics and the rendering API will be measured with RiverTuner on the top left of the screen. There will also be annotations showing other info such as the emulator build and the game that is currently running. If there are any community patches that are being used, such as 60 FPS or widescreen patches, I'll also be making a note of that. The games I'll be showing in this video has been picked for several reasons. 1. The game has been well documented for being difficult to emulate on said emulator. 2. Other bigger channels such as ETA Prime and Taki has already shown off these games. Or number 3, I think the game is just worth mentioning and I don't see much video showcasing it. Other than that, this video will only be covering the emulation performance aspect, so I won't be going in details on how to set up each emulator. Those will have to be in separate videos for another time. So today we'll be taking a look at PS2, PS3, Xbox 360, Switch, Wii U, Wii, Gamecube and 3DS emulation. But before we do, I want to quickly go through some of the smaller emulators that I still feel is worth mentioning. SNES emulation running with the bsnes core in RetroArch performs pretty decently with minor slowdown with Mode 7 upscaling. But you can only go up to 2 times resolution and anything above that will start to get slow and result in sound crackling. N64 has seen a big improvement running with the Mupen 64 Plus core in RetroArch. Some of the heavier titles such as Perfect Dark, Conker's Bad Fur Day and Jet Force Gemini are all now playable in 2 times resolution with pretty much no slowdown. PS1 emulation with the DuckStation core in RetroArch runs amazing on the WinMax, utilizing only about 25% GPU and 5% CPU while pushing 4 times the resolution. You can expect to get around 5 to 6 hours of playtime with pretty low temperature from the WinMax. Dreamcast running with the Flycast core in RetroArch also runs really well and you should be okay pushing the resolution to 720p and still maintaining full speed. As for PSP emulation on the WinMax, you should now be able to push every game that also runs on the Win2 to at least 3 times the resolution in full speed, while keeping the CPU and GPU usage low enough that the WinMax will stay cool to the touch even with long playtime. And with that out of the way, we can now get into some of the more interesting emulators. Before we begin, I just want to say I've got a Twitter account where I show progress on upcoming videos or just hang out and talk about games or answer questions. If that sounds interesting to you, feel free to give it a follow. And if you're enjoying the videos so far and are interested in more future videos about the GPD WinMax, please consider subscribing. That way I know you guys are enjoying the content and it really helps motivate me to make more videos like this. But without further ado, this is emulation performance on the GPD WinMax. Enjoy. So how about we start with the most interesting of the bunch. This is Yuzu emulator running natively on the WinMax. And the performance is actually way better than I expected. So I've tested each and every game with both Vulkan and OpenGL, and sometimes one is better than another, so there's no definitive answer which one you should go with. There are more crashes with Vulkan, but there are less graphical glitches, while OpenGL is more stable, but some games will have broken graphics with it. And here with Smash Ultimate, it is totally playable on the WinMax for 2-player battles. I was actually surprised that 4 to 8 players still managed to load without crashing. Animal Crossing New Horizon is unplayable due to how the game handles outdoor environments. It might be the depth of field effect or something, which isn't a problem indoor. I think when Yuzu gets ironed out eventually, this game will run fine, since the game pretty much locks at full speed when you're in any indoor areas. Mario Maker 2 runs better with Vulkan. The game runs at around 40 to 50 FPS at 3D world stages, but any other stages you should be able to maintain a log 60 FPS. Mario Odyssey hovers at around 40 to 50 FPS in smaller areas like Cap Kingdom, and indoor areas can hit 60 FPS, despite having some graphical glitches rendering with Intel. Bigger areas like Cascade hovers at around 30 to 50 most of the time. Citra has been kind of disappointing for me on the WinMax. I was hoping the shader caching status would be gone by now, since that was also an issue on the Win 2. I'm using the legacy Valentin build as I'm getting better speed with that than the latest official build or the RetroArch core, but jumping from Win 2 to the WinMax, there is a slight improvement. Notably, the extra headroom means the WinMax never gets quite as hot as the Win 2. If you have been keeping up with the Citra emulation scene, you know Luigi Mansion has always been one of the most demanding titles to run with Citra, and outside of shader caching, WinMax is now able to maintain playable speed.
Hello? Above that crowd earlier was an excellent move. Nice work as always, Joker.
I bet Skull wouldn't pull it off that smoothly.
Moving to PS3, running with the RPCS3 emulator. The latest version will crash with every game, so I had to downgrade to an older version, but even then, only a handful of titles will run. In fact, I've tested about 10 games and I was only able to get less than half of them to run without issues. With async shader compile, Persona 5 still builds up shader quite slowly, but when the shaders are all compiled, the game can in fact be playable, minus some exploding vertices.
As always, Joker.
I bet Skull wouldn't pull it off that smoothly.
But unfortunately, I was not able to get any of the Naughty Dog games to run.
You're in 7th place.
Okay, this is the final lap. Hang in there!
Round 1. Ready, go! Knockout! Round 2. Ready, go!
Xbox 360 is another emulator that is currently not running very good on the WinMax. Xenia is so GPU hungry at the current state, and it just maxes out on the GPU usage and it bottlenecks every game I've tried. but there are still some smaller Xbox Live Arcade titles that are playable right now.
Yeah! Oh man, you're not gonna get by without a fight. Nitrous ready. Oh, hey! I got a clear shot. There's someone here.
Gamecube emulation with Dolphin is essentially perfect by this point. You should have no problem running any Gamecube games at native resolution with the game's original frame rates. So here's Mario Sunshine running at 2 times the original resolution with a 60 FPS patch, and it locks to that frame rate 90% of the time. In the hub world, it maintains a lock 60. I've only had some occasional dips to the mid 40s in one of the stages. F-Zero GX was another game that couldn't maintain 60 FPS on the Win 2, but you can do that now on the Win Max. Star Wars Rogue Squadron is another demanding one, and while not perfect, it is totally playable on the Win Max. The game drops frames when I cycle through the different camera angles, but otherwise it's pretty playable. Moving on to Wii, also running with the same Dolphin build. Most games I've tested run perfectly at 2 times resolution, much like Gamecube, The only title I've experienced framerate drops is with Sonic Colors, and that is only with the 60 FPS patch applied. Running at the stock FPS like the original game is no problem on the WinMax. Xenoblade Chronicles is able to maintain full speed 95% of the time, and that is also with the 60 FPS patch applied. At the game's default 30 FPS, the WinMax will run perfectly fine.
Yeah! Let's go! Extreme edge! Alright, I'm feeling it.
Otherwise, games like Mario Galaxy 2 or Mario Kart Wii run perfectly fine with no drops whatsoever. PS2 emulation, in my opinion, has seen the biggest improvement jumping from the Win 2 to the WinMax. Back on the Win 2, only a select few titles are playable, but on the WinMax, only few of them are not playable. Most of them are able to maintain a playable frame rate. There are some drops with certain games, but they are pretty unnoticeable. With PCS62, software renderer is more accurate, but it is slower, and you're only limited to PS2's native resolution. Some games like Tekken 4 and Ridge Racer 5 need to be rendered with the software renderer in order to play correctly. Otherwise, you can get better performance rendering with hardware renderer, with some games that don't require it.
On cue. I was almost there, too. Sorry, Dr. Connors.
Don't.
Blast! Spike! Oh! Oh! Ah! Oh!
This is the part where you fall down.
Some of the heavier titles like Gran Turismo 4 and Burnout Revenge are pretty well known for being difficult to emulate, and they are now playable on the WinMax despite having a couple drop frames. But to maintain a playable speed, you have to use hardware renderer at native resolution.
Bridge City. Don't forget to check them all out and enjoy racing to the max. Let her rip. That was wicked. Check him out.
And finally, we have the Cemu emulator for Wii U. So far, this has been the most troublesome for me to get running properly. I've tested multiple builds of the emulator and here's what I found. I might not be 100% correct, so take this with a grain of salt. So Cemu performs better with the latest build for majority of the games, and that's if you're running with the Vulkan renderer, since OpenGL is kind of broken on the latest build for most games. But with the Vulkan renderer, every game will have to compile shader pipelines, and unlike shader caches, these cannot be transferred around, so you have to build these Vulkan pipelines on the fly, which introduces stutters. The only solution we have that will eliminate this problem is checking the async compile checkbox from the debug tab. But now that brings in a new problem. You see, with async compile, the purpose is to get rid of pipeline building stutters, but it is broken right now either with the Intel driver or Cemu itself, and that is the key to getting good performance in Cemu. And here with Xenoblade Chronicles X, this is the only instance where the game completely breaks on me with both OpenGL and Vulkan. Otherwise, most games will boot, despite running with stutters.
Let's see him chew on this.
Shadow Strike!
A legend from the dawn of time. Nobody knows where the world came from. A struggle caused the trinity of realities to be split into three realms: light, darkness, and chaos. Obviously, our world was the one born from chaos. The three worlds all needed rulers, most of all ours.
In here with Breath of the Wild, the reason I've hidden the performance metrics on this is to show, if what you're seeing right now looks fine to you, you have no problem running the game this way. But in fact, I'm using a 20 FPS cap. The only way I managed to get Breath of the Wild running stably without a crash is with OpenGL. It hovers at around 23 to 25 FPS, so by capping it at 20 it feels way smoother than leaving it uncapped. But I feel like I need to go into way more details to really explain this properly to do this game justice. So I might have to make this a separate video. Let me know in the comments if you like to see this. But the bottom line is, the WinMax can and will run Breath of the Wild perfectly at 30 FPS. That is when the async compile feature on Cemu or Intel driver gets ironed out. Otherwise, that wraps up today's video. I feel I only just scratched the surface showing some of these games. So if you're interested in dedicated videos to each emulator where I show off more games, please let me know. In fact, I've recorded way more clips for this video, but I had to trim out some of them. But if this video was any help to you, it would be amazing for you to like the video or share it around. For the next video, I'll go over some PC games performance on the WinMax, so if that sounds interesting to you, maybe even consider subscribing. But otherwise, enjoy the rest of the gameplay, and as always, thanks for watching.